Stay in your lane.
Welcome to the Mind Your Own podcast with Aaron Sorensen and Sasha Durkin, where we stick to sports, except when we're not.
Hello and welcome back to the Mind Your Own podcast. I'm Aaron.
I'm Sasha.
And I have to be honest, I've been looking forward to recording this podcast since we recorded the last one.
Me too.
Not because
Redemption.
Yes. Not because I'm not excited every week to record this podcast. But I was definitely feeling very anxious. I still am.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, nothing has really changed as far as how I feel.
Yeah.
Until they physically kick a football off on the first day, nothing changes for me. But we knew recording that literally anything was possible because there had been a hot mic situation earlier in the day. It sounded like some information was going to be coming from the Big Ten relatively soon. So recording that, we did our best to keep it vague enough, understanding that literally anything, absolutely nothing, all of it was on the table. Yeah. So I did listen back to it, I think, on Saturday and felt pretty good about what we did. Yeah. But I'm still glad to be re-recording something new.
Right. I actually said when you walked in, I'm like, hey, doesn't it feel great to not feel like we're going to probably have to re-record this?
Yes.
Because that's happened every episode up until this point, basically.
Now, I will say, if you are a listener to this podcast and you say, but Aaron and Sasha, why should I stick around? Or why should I tell my friends and my family? I'm going to tell you one good reason right now, other than our charming and lovely personalities.
Yes.
Last week, I said it had started as October 3rd, October 10th, October 17th, and I said, and I was starting to hear October 24th as a potential option. Yes. I said that on the podcast. Y'all are welcome. It's like sources know something. Thank you. I was going to make a joke about how they were anonymous sources to me, as in if I did not know who they were. But no, the thing was,
it came to me in my dreams.
Yes,
and I'm just going to verify it now.
I'm the Madam Yacht. No, the more it started to go forward, you knew you needed so much time. Yeah. So it's fine, but it definitely cracked me up to listen back on that and to hear it and be like, perfect. So anyway, we now do have a schedule, which we figured there would be something. Yes. And on Wednesday, we pushed the podcast out a little early on Wednesday morning in about an hour. It was about 45 minutes to an hour.
It felt
later.
like 10 because like you could feel, it was like in the air.
I was like frantically putting it like on social, and I'm just like, please everyone open and listen to this as quickly as humanly possible, because very, very soon after that, the Big Ten came out and said they would be playing an 8+1 schedule, 8 games plus the championship week, which everyone will participate in. If you are not 1-1 from the West and East, you will still play that weekend. You're just going to be against 2-2, 3-3, whatever. So at the time, it was 8-1. People wondered what that schedule would look like. Saturday, we got our answer. Yes. Shout out to the Big Ten and Fox for literally derailing everyone's Saturday mornings. Yeah. I mean,
I hope we didn't have plans.
Well, so I was going to be on my way down to Lincoln. I wanted muchachos. We had a reason. My fiance and I had a reason to. His family's from Lincoln, so we had a reason to be on our way down. And he was driving. I was literally in the car, like listening and updating. And it just, you do what you have to do sometimes. I remember my claim to fame. Everyone has this story of, every reporter has a story of where they were when they had to do something sort of unconventional because a story broke. Mine was sitting at a gas station on an exit between Omaha and Lincoln because Cameron Jurgens committed. Yeah. And he committed sort of unexpectedly. So we were ready for it. Like we had a pre-write and everything, but we weren't expecting it at that moment. Right. So here I am like pulling off into a gas station and like sitting on the side of the road people have the stories of writing in McDonald's and random, small towns across Nebraska.
On the fly booking a guest as a reaction to what's just happened.
Oh yeah.
Mike Riley hire. Jason, I already was talking to Jason Peter, and I'm like, dude, Do you have time right now?
Just right now.
Because he's
Let's
like,
just do
why, what
this.
happened? And he goes, oh, wait, yes, I do. And we had just gone to commercial, so the timing of it was impeccable.
Perfect. We all have these stories. And so for me, Saturday morning was, well, I guess we're going to fill this out. And just if you somehow have been living under a rock, which I assume you haven't been, but let's just say hypothetically you were, because the one journalism rule is to assume everyone is an idiot, just to be clear.
Right.
So
Yes.
I've had people who come at me and are like, I already know this. Why are you retelling me? The reason
Because
why
maybe there
is
is that
because
person who does not.
you are speaking to the person who may not. So if you do not, here's the order. I'm not going to say the dates because the dates are technically not set in stone. Like, for instance, the week that Nebraska plays Iowa is probably going to be a Black Friday game. I would assume it will be played on Black Friday since that
Right.
was what they were pushing for. But right now, the Big Ten just has it listed as November 28th. That's a Saturday. I don't think that's going to be the case.
Right.
So anyway, we know that like the first week, Nebraska does have its game. They play Saturday, October 24th, and they're the noon kickoff, noon Eastern. It's 11 a.m. Central. If you're in any
Yeah.
other time zone, do your own conversion.
Because we'll probably screw it up
I will
anyway.
mess it up. It is Big Ten breakfast football for those of you on the West Coast. So week 1 is at Ohio State. Week 2, Wisconsin at home. Week 3 at Northwestern. Week 4, Penn State at home. And when I say at home, at Memorial Stadium. Week 5, Illinois at home. Week 6 at Iowa. That again is Thanksgiving weekend. More than likely that will be a Black Friday matchup. I would be shocked if it is not.
I would be too.
For TV purposes, there's no reason it wouldn't be. Week 8, Minnesota at home. And then that week 9 championship weekend, which is obviously to be determined. We don't have an idea where they're going to play them. We have no idea on
Right.
any of that. So that is a big question mark across the board.
Yes.
So that is it. But
But-
it is not it because
No,
some of
it's
y'all are real mad. You're real mad.
You
In
guys-
fact, I just made the R and the M like murmur.
Calm down.
Calm down.
My goodness. It's not enough that they actually potentially have a season. Like, that
Maybe.
isn't good enough for you?
I have no idea if any of this is. We talked about this last week on the podcast. The Big Ten has put some incredibly.
Yeah.
Did we talk about this? No,
No,
we
we
talked
didn't have
about
it.
this. We talked about this
What
on
potentially.
Yes, and we also talked about it on the Varsity Club podcast.
Yeah.
So if
And I was here that day.
You were here, so I'm just like meshing them all together. So if you want kind of like a secondary piece to the last week's Mind Your Own podcast, tune in to the Varsity Club podcast because we do talk about how strict the Big Ten's
Regulations.
COVID-19 regulations are. And honestly, rightfully so. They're
agree.
protecting themselves. They have to do it. I have a hard time seeing how every team in this conference is going to get a full schedule in, but we're operating as if it's going to happen right now. So anyway, the first thing that really started to happen was the second, because what Fox and the Big Ten did, which we knew they were going to do, is they decided to roll these out one by one, week by week, so that they could drag this on a little bit, make a big deal about it. You know, if
It's back.
it's back, you know, if nothing else, it got everyone's attention on the Big Ten on a day they weren't playing. Makes sense. But the second they announced week 1 at Ohio State, my Twitter literally exploded out of my computer.
Yeah.
People were somewhere between stages of hysteria, just frustration. I mean,
good way to put it.
it was very entertaining. And then it slowly turned into this very divisive line of people who were like, stop complaining. And then the people who were like, I have every right to complain because they're screwing us. So the reason that people, I think, believe this to be the case is since Nebraska started, you can't
Chirping.
Yeah,
Not
I don't
even?
know, because Nebraska had 8 players who sued the conference,
yeah.
and because Scott Frost did that press conference, everyone's like, well, because Nebraska was so vocal and so willing to go out on a limb, they're punishing them.
No.
Here's the thing. I'm going to just point something out. All of these opponents on this schedule were the exact same on this schedule so we've had 3 schedules now.
Yes.
Every single one of these was on the original schedule.
Yes.
All of these were on the second iteration of the schedule. The only difference on that one, outside of the 2 games that have now been dropped to this one, Wisconsin went from being an away game to home because they saw it as an opportunity. There was some discrepancy in how that the home and aways were working.
Yes.
So they used this as a chance that Wisconsin would come here twice. Nebraska is going to Purdue back-to-back years, but it will hopefully solve some travel issues in the future. That was the one thing that changed. Now, they dropped off Rutgers, which was supposed to be Nebraska's first game. And then they dropped off Michigan State, which no one cared about Michigan State because they were like, they weren't going to be there to begin with.
Right.
The thing though is that week 1, if you're looking at who the Big Ten is going to put in that slot for Nebraska, Ohio State or Rutgers, I need you to give me a reason they would have picked Rutgers.
Why would they ever pick Rutgers? And you know what? Like the original schedule, they were going to play them on the 31st anyway. So it's not far off from the original date they were supposed to play. I get, okay, fine, it's the first game of their now season. But how is that a punishment when you were going to play them anyway? I don't understand where that idea comes from.
It's because they went from playing Purdue to open the season and then Rutgers to open the season to now Ohio State. But here's the thing.
So you have to play your ass off right out the gate? Oh,
honestly,
darn.
I'm of the belief system that this schedule actually works out favorably for Nebraska, and I will tell you why. As we saw in week 1 with the Big 12 and the Sun Belt kick their butts every which way to Sunday. When you can get a team early in the season right now, because for the record, Wandale Robinson actually made this comment. He was on Husker Sports Nightly on Monday night. So we are recording on a Tuesday, so this is very recent.
Yes.
He basically said, we haven't worn pads in 9 months. Full pads, because I had a moment where I had to take a step back and I had to be like, excuse me, because they've worn spider pads and they've had practices with helmets, but they never got far enough in spring ball to actually have full pads on. So they have not had full pads on since Iowa of last year.
That was a while ago, guys.
9 months. So here's the thing. Everybody's coming into this. Nobody really in the Big Ten got through spring ball too far. There wasn't anybody who started. A couple of teams started a week or 2 earlier than Nebraska and got, a few extra practices in. But nobody has been in pads in quite some time.
Yeah.
So you're going to get Ohio State at a time where if you're going to get a shot at them, this is the time to get your shot, because
everyone's going to be rusty.
No, I'm not going to say that. Like, Ohio State is probably more on the line of like Clemson.
Right.
But Nebraska, I do not believe, is on the same line as Citadel.
Right.
So I don't think you're going to have a Clemson Citadel situation. I think you legitimately will have a team that can come in. And I've been talking to some people, other reporters around the league, and quite a few people. So for the record, for those of you who are like, everyone in this league hates us, everyone hates Nebraska.
That's not true.
It's not true, because I've talked to reporters who cover other teams, and they believe that there's a possibility that this could be a shootout. Ohio State may not be the cleanest defensively. Nebraska, if the offense becomes what we have assumed it could be for a couple of years.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's going to be, neck and neck, but
they're not going to get boat raced, is what you're trying to say.
Right. If Ohio State wins 56-35.
Right.
Are you walking away from that upset as a Nebraska fan?
Right.
Probably not, especially on the road, because as a reminder, we've all sat through the 2016 game on the road. So anyway, I think if you are Nebraska, you look at that, you get Ohio State early. You now have Wisconsin coming to you, which was the case with the second version of the schedule. But originally walking into 2020, you were going to have to go to Wisconsin.
Yeah.
You do not have to do that now. You now have Wisconsin coming to you. And I think that is a huge benefit and just presents a number of possibilities.
It's a little bit of a leg up for you.
Yes, because I just want to point out, so this was Nebraska's original schedule, which you mentioned, and I tweeted it. So shout out to the Hill Varsity Yearbook for having this, because so they would have opened the season with Purdue at home. So the first month would have been at home, and then you go into non-conference play with Central Michigan, South Dakota State, Cincinnati. Now, I don't want to say that all 3 of those games were even like the non-conference were super winnable either. I mean, I think that there are some challenges there. Then they would have gone at Northwestern, Illinois at home, at Rutgers, at Ohio State, Penn State at home, at Iowa, at Wisconsin, Minnesota at home. That back half of that schedule, those 7 games were brutal. Yeah. Because to tell you, like, yes, at Rutgers is probably a win. It's probably, I don't think you can say anything is safe with Nebraska and ESAC currently. And I don't think, to be honest, I don't think Scott Frost would make that comment either. I do not think he would say any game is safe. So I don't think I'm speaking out of turn to say that. But to go on the road at Rutgers and then immediately the week later turn around and go to at Ohio State, those are 2, like, that's a lot of travel back to back.
Absolutely.
And then you get Penn State coming to you.
Right.
And then you travel again to Iowa and Wisconsin before having Minnesota come to you.
So are people saying that they would have rather had that iteration?
I'd rather have the current one.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Like,
what
are you freaking out about?
I just can't. I can't.
It doesn't make sense to me. Like I don't really check Twitter as often as maybe I should. I'll hop on for a little bit, maybe 10 minutes each day, and then I get irritated immediately. So I shut it down. Yep. But on days when there's bigger breaking news, I'll go and check just to kind of check the temperature a little bit. I wouldn't say I was shocked given the atmosphere in the fan base around what's happened through this whole thing. But like, you guys, calm down.
Well, see, the problem is, and like we talked about
wildly shaking my hands everywhere.
The thing that like you're probably, if you hear like a noise in the background, it's because I keep slamming my like this giant titanium steel water thing to the like table, which is not great for sound acoustics. But the thing is like, I understand that there's sort of this like Nebraska feels slighted right now, but
I get it. That's fine.
Okay. So that's one thing with fans. Fans have been upset because of how some national media has responded to it. Now,
stop responding to them then, and they'll stop. It automatically squashes itself out. It's not as loud. If you don't ignore it, fine. But like, talk about it with your friends and not on Twitter.
Yeah, and also
maybe. I don't know.
Also with like, because the big thing with Pat Forty, he knows that he's got your attention, and Nebraska still is coming across exactly as he believes he's presenting it. So here's the thing. Even if you can't ignore it, you have to understand where it's not always a great look. I don't want to be overly critical here, and so I'm going to actually point people to something because I think he said it far better than I will. It didn't help that Bill Moose made the comments that he did.
Yeah, I agree with that.
So Derek Peterson, who's one of our staff writers for Hail Varsity, he's the one who hosts the Varsity Club podcast that we were telling you to go listen to. He wrote his column for the week. He does a Sunday advance for a Monday column, and it was about Moose's comments. And he said, the first section, he said, sometimes you see an interview and know almost immediately they're going to regret that one later. Saturday felt like one of those times because Bill Moose came out and he talked about how he went 0-3 and the things that he wanted. Now, I would actually argue back against him because one of the things he did say he wanted was Iowa on Thanksgiving weekend, and he got it.
Right.
He got it. Like, you literally were able, in the weirdest of ways, to self-correct something and get the team you wanted on Black Friday back in that spot. So I know it feels like you went 0-3 in other regards because he's on that like scheduling subcommittee, but like you did get this one piece that you said you were going to do. So the one comment that he made that just like the second I saw it, I was like, oh no, let me go find it.
Because that I think in conjunction with the way the schedule rolled out, you see Ohio State on the road and that's your first game, then coupled with the atmosphere that's already kind of like on fire anyway. Then Bill Moose's comment.
Well, because
which was,
I've got a good football team with a great football coach that deserves a break here or there to start getting back on track to being a contender in the Big Ten West.
Okay.
That sounds
couple that
bad
with what happened. Yes. We touched back on that, but then Pat Forty's columns and comments on Twitter, it just created this like bubble of like atmospheric gas, and then it
Yes.
all exploded everywhere.
Now, I want to also say something. Like, Pat Forty is a bit of a personality in the sense that he is going bigger and bolder than like even like, I mean, it's more than like I would if I was writing a column myself. That's not my style.
Right.
And that type of style is very polarizing. So he knows that. Like
Yes.
that he knows that.
It's like dating someone or even like a close family member, and they know what buttons to push, so they're
Right.
going to keep pushing them to get the reaction they want. That's
Because
exactly what he's doing.
I read the column, the most recent column that Lord knows if there's another one by the time this podcast comes out. But like, I read the one that at the most recent point that we're talking, everyone was upset about and freaking out about. And I'll be honest, please do not come for me. But like, I didn't completely disagree with everything he was saying. Mm-hmm. But I felt like when you're saying the word, like you're talking about how something's not fair and Nebraska's complaining about it, you don't need to put 10 R's on the end of the word to make your point.
Right.
I understand you're trying to do it for like the dramatic effect of it.
Right.
But it just comes across as really, it comes across, I don't even know how to put it into words. It comes across as mean-spirited and
Condescending.
yeah, that's the,
Yeah.
thank you. Condescending is a good word for that because it feels like at that point you're past the point you're trying to make and you're now just trying to also take little like digs at people.
Right. You're just like twisting the knife then at that point.
Right. Because
You already inserted it. Like,
do I think some people are whining? Yes,
Sure.
I do. Like, I think we need to like take a step back and go like, thank God his schedule's even being played.
Right.
And I'm not trying to like be like, just appreciate what you've been given. That's not it at all. But like,
Right.
I'm still concerned that this is not going to happen.
I agree. I honestly am of the belief, and this is like derailing us a little bit, that every single game is not going to be played.
I really don't think so either. And I think, you know, I've seen a couple of people, and for the record, like if you're ever like, no one ever, like, I feel like I'm saying these things on Twitter, like I do see them. Thank you for also like being like willing to like go against the grain when everyone else is going this way. And
Yeah,
now
right.
I have seen a few people who've made the comment of like, I'm a little bit concerned that like the full schedule won't even be played. So like, I'm not in the place to be upset that the schedule looks any which way because
Right.
I just want to have games and
Right.
I'm afraid it won't happen. And I that's kind of where I'm at is I'm just take it 1 week at a time. And honestly, that Ohio State matchup is one that like is going to get your team excited.
For sure.
We've seen, speaking of Wan'Dale Robinson, his tweet right away was like, all right, let's go. Casey Rogers tweeted something from, I don't even remember what movie it was, but like an I Am Spartacus type of gif. This team is ready. They don't care who you throw at them. They don't care if you gave them the Kansas City Chiefs against
Right.
Patrick Mahomes right now. Like they're going in there no matter what you give them.
They want to play.
They want to play, and you know what? I think that's how Scott Frost feels as well. Now, this feels kind of like awkwardly sandwiched into this, but like, you know, obviously our deepest condolences to the Frost family. A lot of people were wondering initially on Wednesday when that announcement came out why they hadn't heard from Frost as people found out as the week went forward. Unfortunately, Larry Frost, who is a former Husker himself, a legendary coach alongside his wife Carol, unfortunately Larry died last week at the age of 73. So deepest condolences to the Frosts and all of those who loved and knew Larry because he had a significant impact. And
Yes.
it was clear from what we saw, not only with his memorial service, but on Twitter. So obviously Scott Frost has been in a situation where he's had something much bigger to deal with right now.
Yep.
So we haven't heard from him, but I feel like if we do hear from him, he's going to be more aligned with we're ready to play whoever we're going to play.
Exactly.
Because that is the type of, let's just call it like it is. What do people know Frost for? Scott Frost. I keep saying Frost, having now mentioned his dad, Larry. But what did people know Scott Frost for? Is they knew him to always sort of be a little bit of an asshole because of how competitive he was when he was a player. Because that is who he is. He is a competitive guy.
Yeah.
How often does a quarterback, and I credit Derek for pointing this out, how often does a quarterback in college go from that to playing defense in the NFL because they're willing to just do it? Scott Frost. Because Scott Frost is a competitive guy.
Yeah.
And he's not looking at the schedule going, oh, woe is me.
No, absolutely not. He's like, all right, bring it on.
Yeah,
like,
he's like,
let's go. He's
I've got a team.
fired up.
Yeah, he believes in his team. I mean,
Yeah.
come on. So I think, once we're able to start hearing from Scott a little bit more. Now, I do want to just say a little side note. Like, there was a comment that was passed around a little bit on Twitter yesterday about a comment he made at his father's memorial, sort of about the Big Ten and like his dad's take on it. I just want to put out there, I don't care about that comment. It's not worth even like repeating, and I'm going to tell you why. It was made at a memorial during a eulogy in jest. And I'm not willing to go down that path of like, how does this represent Scott's opinion on the Big Ten right now? Don't do that.
It doesn't.
Until we hear from him and he does his media and he tells us, don't do that. I understand we're all starved for like what something means.
Anything, yeah.
Just, let those moments just be
what they are in the moment.
Right. And just move forward. So for me, until I hear from Scott in person, my understanding, I believe this is exactly what we'll get when we hear from him, is I'm ready. They could have given us anyone. We don't care. We're ready to go.
Right.
Because Nebraska has led this. I mean, from the moment he held that press conference, it has been Nebraska saying we are willing to hang ourselves out here to dry for all of you to pick on us, to come at us. But
just to play the game that we want to play, that we love. Like, yeah.
So I just think, I understand, it's been a long off season. And I think we're all really
so incredibly long.
I think it's just been...
I think that is the other layer to this whole entire thing, is with everything that's gone on this entire year to begin with, the one thing that a lot of people escape to and through would be sports, and especially around here, Nebraska football. So I get like being frustrated, but every single thing that's said and iterated and uttered or whispered or anything doesn't mean everything. Like, just let the chips kind of fall where they may for right now. And I didn't mean to, if I came off as rude earlier and kind of told you to shut up and calm down, people, no.
I'm offended.
I get calm down a little bit. Like, take a breath. It's gonna work out the way it's gonna work out. There's not really anything you can do about it. Hopefully there's football. So what if it's Ohio State?
The last time Nebraska went to Ohio State, and I just keep thinking of like, there was a couple of, Nebraska didn't win, but there was a couple of like really good moments in that game. And it actually created some like a little bit of like friendly rivalry on Twitter between players, I remember. And so like, in my opinion, like, let's just embrace, I think this is another way to look at it. When Nebraska joined the Big Ten, and Nebraska fans may say, well, the Big Ten hasn't exactly held up to its end of the deal in our opinion, but I'm going to also just say Nebraska has not held up to its end of the deal not quite yet either. However, when you look at who the Big Ten wanted Nebraska to be playing, didn't matter. At the time it was legends and leaders, but it didn't matter in what side of the division you were on. They were really pairing Nebraska up with your true blue bloods of Ohio State, Penn State, Michigan, Wisconsin, and they still are, because to a degree, I think there's a level of respect.
I was just going to say that. I was like, how is that not respect?
Do you want them to say, hey, you only deserve to play Rutgers?
Yeah. Or Maryland?
I mean...
like, come on.
No offense to Rutgers. I was actually really looking forward to Rutgers because I wanted to see Noah Vedral for Rutgers. Yeah. But, I mean, I just think a little bit of it is like, it may feel unfair, but that's just because Nebraska is still in the state of trying to get over a hump it hasn't been able to get over yet.
I agree with that. I think that is like another layer of our beautiful Shrek onion that this fan base goes through and endures. I think that they're ready for that change. It's like waiting for the other foot to drop, but in a positive way.
Right.
Like, and I totally understand that. I get it. But at the same time, I feel like there's like the expectations are so high that, we're Nebraska. Like, awesome.
Yeah.
But.
And to be honest, like when you look at this year, like nothing in 2020 makes sense anymore. Everything is terrible. Everything is bad. I just think, for the way I'm seeing it for Nebraska is this is an opportunity to take advantage of whatever this is.
Yep.
Because there's really no, because here's the thing. There's really no expectations out there. Any of the guys that are playing this game can come back for another year if they want it. There's literally nothing to lose and everything to gain.
Yep.
It's one of those things where if you have a crap season, cool. You're playing in a pandemic.
Right.
Like,
there's probably a giant asterisk at the end of it anyway.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm not trying to sit here and be like, hey, everyone, like, don't appreciate this season for being a season. But to a degree, it's not normal.
Right.
So at this point, like, Nebraska can have the biggest chip on its shoulder and could go through this and end up having, I have no idea.
Yeah.
Vegas is not quite as confident. But it doesn't matter. The thing is Nebraska has a shot at Ohio State on the road week 1.
Yeah.
What's the answer? You're going to show up and you're going to play. And every single person who, whether you've been okay with the schedule, you've complained, you're going to show up and you're going to watch that game. So I think at this point, the best thing that we can all do is just like
sit back and enjoy whatever happens.
Enjoy what it is. You're starting to get photos from Nebraska's football practices. You're starting to see, talking about Derek Peterson again, he shared a story on Hail Varsity about real football topics that we can talk about.
Right.
We have not been able to do that since July when we thought that there was something to talk about. So I think we just got to, enjoy what we have for the moment, because heaven knows what else this year is going to throw this way. So just just chill, because there are things for me where I get really excited. So last spring, the one day of availability we got made that day just live in memory. The question I asked a bunch of people is who's going to wear number 0? The NCAA had just approved the ability for a player to wear the number 0. And everyone had kind of settled on it would either be their money was on Luke McCaffrey on offense, or I don't think we said Cam Taylor-Britt on defense. I'd have to go look who our defensive pick was. But I was pretty sold on if there's going to be somebody on the offense who will do it, it'll be Luke McCaffrey. Well, we finally have our 0. And we wouldn't know who our 0 was if we did not have football to practice for. And it is freshman defensive back Ronald Delancey III. He's the first known Husker to wear number 0. He shared it on his Instagram.
That's amazing. That's exciting. It's exciting.
Yes. Tim, who is a contributor for Nebraska 24/7, shared those photos on Twitter. So I am just Ronald is my new favorite player of all time because of at Nebraska, because he's the first to wear 0. I wanted to know who it would be.
Yeah.
Shout out to Ronald Delancey III. You got it. You did it.
I'm
this
excited.
Is the question I've been asking since March.
Right.
But we would not have had this answer if the Big Ten hadn't given a schedule.
Exactly.
So let's just call it a wash.
We
wouldn't have our 0.
Wallow in the 0.
Oh, I love it. Oh my gosh. It's just been, it's maybe part of it is for me, it's just been so much drama for so long.
Yeah.
Where I'm at a point now where it's okay, enough with the drama. Let's just roll.
Exactly.
Let's just call it a day. As much as yes, as I
LFG, man.
Yes. Some of y'all are upset because there's no fans in the stands. You know what? I don't care. Families are going to be able to watch their kids play. They'll be in the stands. Awesome. Love it.
You have a TV at home, I'm sure.
It's going to be weird. I understand.
Have someone throw it up in their garage. You can social distance in the driveway. Maybe have a little bonfire or something.
From what I understand, and there will be more about it to come, the rail yard in Lincoln is going to have the games on the big screen where you'll be able to, I don't know if it's how you'll reserve your tickets, but basically be able to reserve a spot so that you can socially distance and safely be away from people while also still having that environment.
Being able to cheer.
Yes.
For your favorite team.
So things are going to happen. It's going to be exciting.
Yes. Where did the excitement get lost? Like, that's what miffs me. I think that's why I get so frustrated, I think is the word I was looking for earlier. Like, that's where I get frustrated. Mm-hmm. Like, I'm jacked because...
No, I understand.
Finally.
I understand if you're a little hesitant, because I'm here with you. If you're someone who's like, I'm really jacked about the schedule, but I'm also a little concerned because it's a pandemic and that's a little alarming. The one thing I will say is I know it seems strict, but I have to give the Big Ten credit because we do know that they're working with Ohio State has an incredible medical facility. We know Nebraska Medical Center has been involved in all of this. We know some of the best experts are weighing in on this. The thing that the Big Ten has done with its rules that I feel good about understanding that I know nothing. Right. I would like to be clear, I know nothing. I'm not a doctor. I just pretend when I read WebMD when I'm feeling like I need to.
Yeah.
The thing that they have done is they have set themselves up not only to safeguard the players, but to also help understand. So by having a player sit out for 21 days after they test positive, which I want to be clear, they'll do the rapid testing. If a positive test comes back, then they have to go do a second test because we obviously know from other conferences in the NFL that false positives are possible.
Right.
So they're taking that and they're using it to their advantage so that if they get a positive, they'll go and retest to make sure that there wasn't something that maybe incorrectly provided that positive.
Right.
And then, yes, they're going to ask that player to sit out for 21 days. And if you're a Nebraska fan and that player is Wan'Dale Robinson, that stinks. He's out for 21 days. However, what the Big Ten is saying is it's not just about having him recover from COVID-19 and not being able to spread it any longer to his teammates. We also need to know what it's doing to his heart.
Exactly.
And that is where I think, in this whole thing, when we talked last week and we said, what is the holdup here? I think fans probably were a part of it. I think the testing and all of the pieces that have to go into it were another component. Mm-hmm. And, I know it seems maybe a little dramatic for some people.
Right.
But again, we all know nothing. We're not
medical professionals, so
and it's a pandemic.
Exactly. It's just like uncharted territory for this time, this day and age. Like, sure, there have been pandemics before, but not in 2020. So
the Big Ten is just trying to say, hey, let us cover our bases.
They're trying to keep the players that you love and the teams that you love watching safe. So I think above anything else, like that, we should be like, cool, I'm glad that they're taking those measures. I would rather be safe than have anything horrible happen.
Sorry. Again, this season is going to be bonkers for so many reasons.
Yeah.
Things that we don't expect will probably happen. Players that we love to watch will probably have to sit out at points. And you know what? I say let's embrace the craziness and just roll. Yeah. That's about all you can do.
This is what this season is. So just embrace it for whatever it is or is not.
I'm just excited to see some football.
Something, yes. Something. Exactly.
I mean, as we get closer, you're talking about being able to start seeing basketball happening. Other sports, we know volleyball will be looking at January as its start date. So things are not going to be whatever normal is. Things are not going to be normal for some time.
Well, we did know normal is not what normal is anymore.
But we're going to have something, we talked about the importance of having those outlets, those things that give you a place to focus yourself for your own mental health, for your own, just to have things, this is that. So let's just embrace it as much as we can. Right. Otherwise, it's going to be a long winter. Long winter.
You thought the last 9 months has been long. It's going to be longer.
So much longer.
So let's just embrace some semblance of happiness as long as it will last.
Yes.
And be okay with it.
That's where I'm at. And I will say, I do appreciate, because we've heard from more of you on Twitter, and you can always email us at mindyourownpodcast@hailvarsity.com. But we've heard a little bit from some of you who've been listening to the episodes. And when I listened back to this last week, I have to reiterate this. I do believe I heard myself say, you know, I hope that like the vibes and the good energy we're putting out into the universe, I hope is that what is bringing you here. But even if you come here for whatever reason, I hope you leave feeling better. Like, even if you don't agree with us on everything, I hope you leave feeling better than you started maybe this podcast. That is ultimately the goal. And I still believe that's true, because I know I see some of you on Twitter. We don't agree on everything, but it doesn't, you know what? It's okay. Like, we're allowed to all have like differing viewpoints as long as we can be respectful of one another.
And have a conversation about it if we want to have a conversation about it. A conversation, not a screaming match.
Yes. Don't scream at me, because I just don't do well with that.
Right.
But I do want to say too, and y'all are just so funny. So, this week, by the time you listen to this, so first of all, I forgot to say this at the top of this episode. Happy first day of fall. Today is the first day of fall. When you're listening to this, it's the second day of fall.
It's officially pumpkin spice latte season.
I mean, it's like summer in Nebraska again.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm wearing like layers inside or like long sleeves inside, because the air is still
chilly.
on. This is that time of the year where the air conditioning is still on, but it's like really hot outside. Fall. Yeah. It's like going to be 90 this week.
Yeah.
It's crazy. This is a Nebraska like fall.
Typical.
I remember when I coached high school cheerleading, like every week was so different on Fridays, Thursdays and Fridays. Like one week they would be in like full like cold weather gear, and the next week they're in like their skirts and like no long sleeves at all. It's like skirts and like the shells. And it would just like be like that all season long. I mean, you'd even have like, I've had unseasonably warm Iowa games at Nebraska, where I remember a couple of years ago, it was Riley's last game.
Yeah.
We all knew he was going to get fired that weekend. It was his last game. It was like 75.
It was not balmy.
Yeah, I remember I like was sweating. I had like a jacket over a sweater, and I was like sweating.
Right.
So, I mean, this is that time of the year where it's just a up and down, up and down.
Get your fall gear out, but also keep your summer stuff out.
Yes.
Until it snows.
Now, I will say, by the time you also listen to this, it will be after the fact. But I still think it's really important. So Tuesday, September, what even is the date? September 22nd is National Voter Registration Day. Mm-hmm. So when you're listening to this, whether it's on Wednesday or Thursday or like a week from now, I don't care. Go register to vote.
Please.
That is not political. I want to be clear on something.
It's your right to vote.
I'm sorry.
Why wouldn't you want to?
You all just listen to my like complete like feelings about this. So the Big Ten tweeted because they made their statement this summer that they're going to put a challenge out to encourage more athletes to register to vote. Mm-hmm. Y'all need to get out of those mentions telling them that like it's political and to stick to sports and blah, 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 blah. Because first and foremost, you're responding to the conference. You're not responding to a sports account.
Right.
Come on. But also, no, they're not telling these athletes how to vote. They're encouraging them to register to vote.
Yeah.
It's not political. I'm sorry. Get out of those mentions. Don't do what I did. Don't go look at the mentions, because then what happens and you fall into a trap of like, I want to respond to all these people.
Right.
It's not political. So here's the thing. If you're like, how can I vote? Go to vote.gov. Vote.gov will get you your information. The things that you need to know is every state is different. There are deadlines for voter registration. There's deadlines for like depending on in-person, mail-in ballots, all of that stuff. It varies by state. So I do not want to say anything specifically here about how it is or is not going to work for you personally, because I don't know where you're listening from. I don't know where you would be at. But you can also go, if you'd like to, I actually personally retweeted this one because I'm a big fan of When We All Vote. Mm-hmm. That is Michelle Obama's organization that she started. Big fan of their work. Yeah. Again, it's not political. They're always very like focused on getting people registered. Mm-hmm. So you can either go to vote.gov or you can go to weall.vote/register. Or you can go to my Twitter. It's at Erin Sorensen. I have it tweeted there. But I loved, they gave a couple of things. They said, register to vote, make a plan for voting. So like talk about how you're going to do it. Am I going to do it in person? Am I doing a mail-in ballot? Am I doing early in person? There's so many things that you need to do. And then go get 5 friends to do the exact same thing. Yeah. It's so simple. I got to give a shout out to all of the social media networks. Facebook has had it top front and center. Yep. Instagram has. I saw something last night on Monday Night Football where they said something like 39% of registered voters didn't show up to vote.
Yep.
That's horrific. First and foremost, like that number is already so small because people aren't registering to vote. But if you're going to register to vote, then make the commitment to show up and do it. Because here's the thing, your vote does matter, especially in local elections.
Yes.
Local elections especially. Like I don't even want to like, sometimes I just get so frustrated because everyone wants to just hyper focus on the presidential election, which is important as well. But your local elections mean more in the short term for you as an individual. Yes. So
if you're unhappy with whoever your elected officials are in your jurisdiction, now is the time and the opportunity for you to cast your vote to try to change that.
Yes. Just, and the thing is, and I am happy and like, again, I don't believe that this is political. Funny little fun fact about me, not funny. It might be funny to somebody. I was actually a political science minor because at one point I thought it would be really fun to work on a campaign trail or to work in the White House.
Yeah.
Don't feel that way any longer. But I actually really love politics. And it's interesting when I tell people that because they're like, why do you like politics? And it's like, well, I don't like the yelling and the screaming and all that stuff, but I do love what it means. I do love what it represents. I do love what it symbolizes. I love the ability to have a civil conversation with somebody about politics.
Yes. Yeah.
Knowing that like I'm very strong in my beliefs, but like I'm often the person who will be like, I want to hear your beliefs, but I don't want to hear them if you're going to yell at me or if it's going to be.
Why do you feel that way?
Yeah.
Because then that helps you. Like I'm the same way. Like I would like to understand
or change my own viewpoints.
Exactly.
Help me be a better citizen by sharing your concerns and your views. It's just, I'm happy to do that on this podcast every week too. Like that's the challenge. Go register to vote. But like there's so many good resources out there that will let you look into who aligns with what you believe in. Because so often we get hyper focused on a party or one issue.
Yes.
That we don't see the bigger picture of what things matter. So not only register. Here's the thing. This week, just go get yourself registered to vote. Don't worry about anything else.
Yeah.
But let's do the research later to make sure that you're voting for who you can feel really good about. And I'm not just talking at a federal level. I'm talking locally, the people that matter to you and are going to make big changes for you as well at home. So again, don't worry about those this week, but just go get yourself registered to vote because none of it matters if you don't have the ability to go.
Exactly.
And then I'm going to tell you every single week, show your damn ass up and go vote. Because if I see another damn commercial that says 39% of registered voters didn't show up to vote, I am going to single-handedly come and find every single one of you. We'll just limit it to maybe like people who listen to this podcast to start, because that's a lot of people. But I will come and find you, and I will not be pleased.
You heard it here, folks. You better register to vote.
I have to ask you, though, really quick. Did you end up watching? Because I did not, and I'm going to tell you why. I was really busy, but I'm going to probably watch it tonight. The Social Dilemma.
I did. I watched it last week, actually, after we, that evening after we recorded. It wasn't anything to me that I haven't thought or known before, but it did re-solidify to me the issue that we are going to run into with social media if it's not regulated in some capacity. War. Yeah, that comment did stand out to me, but there was a few other things, and I actually would strongly, regardless of your feelings on anything, just watch it because it's a little enlightening if you haven't thought of it that way before. The right at the top, it was the quote that if you're not paying for something, you are the product.
Yep.
And I just got goosebumps again because if you really think about that,
it's kind of skeezy feeling. It's you kind of.
And they go more in depth on how they're doing this. The reason that we don't pay for social media is because of advertising, but there's a specific reason that and how they keep you coming back, and it's creepy.
It is.
It's creepy.
Yeah. I applaud all of you who are like, I don't get on social media, but I don't honestly know how you would have gotten to this podcast without it. So
right. Yeah.
The thing is it's a double-edged sword. I'm going to watch it. So I said that last week, and then the Big Ten stuff started happening.
Yeah.
And to be honest, every shit just hit the fan consecutively. And so every single day I kept saying, I'm like, I need to watch it. So it's like, for me tonight, it's either that or Dancing with the Stars. I think I'll probably pick The Social Dilemma.
It's very good. It's enlightening. And I think that if you end up enjoying that, you and people who are listening, and you're intrigued about it, I would really suggest, after watching it, reading The Power of Habit.
I've seen that book.
It's really interesting and enlightening to me, just because it's stuff that I've thought for a while, but I didn't understand how exactly it worked.
Right.
And it puts a lot of things in perspective. It's pretty cool.
I've seen
the
book.
It's crazy, but it's cool.
I'll have to, I'm so fascinated by, social. It's definitely this double-edged sword as a business, because it has made itself so here, like, just to give you some insight, one of the hardest things so many businesses went up against, and you did see people come forward and say, like, we're going to pull our advertising dollars. But when Facebook wasn't willing to, like, make any changes around following the death of George Floyd, and there was a lot of call for Facebook to make a statement or to do something to just to be harder on fake news and to really, like, buckle down on some of this. You saw some big companies who are able to pull their dollars out. But the thing is Facebook has made themselves so invaluable to small businesses to be able to reach large amounts of people for a relatively low cost, that if you removed that as a small business, you suddenly don't have your pipeline any longer.
Right.
And that's the thing that's a little bit terrifying for me, because other social networks have not quite replicated that for small businesses in the same way.
Yeah.
So Twitter does not function as well.
Yeah.
Obviously Instagram is the same as Facebook, but that's the thing that concerns me, is for big companies who are able to say, like, that's fine, we'll pull our dollars out because we don't need it. It's not quite that way for small businesses. And so then you're kind of doing a deal with the devil no matter what you want to do. And so I'm so fascinated. I need to watch it. I'm going to do that. So I've moved my double homework, but I'm already registered to vote. So
you get a double homework assignment. It doesn't take very much time to register to vote.
No, it doesn't.
So then after you do that, then watch the Social
Dilemma.
Dilemma. It's on Netflix.
I'm going to have to. I was excited to watch it last week. I kind of wasn't able to get to it. I'm hoping for a quieter week on the news front.
Yeah.
I'm sure things will continue. But the nice part is, no matter when you listen to this, none of this is outdated, unless you're listening to it in like 2024. And then
they'll be like, what year is this even from?
if you get here in 2024, give us a shout out, because I want to know what you're up to. Like, how did you get here? No, but like I said, you can always email us at mindyourownpodcast at hailvarsity.com. I'm at Erin Sorensen. You're at Sasha72.
Yes.
Got it. And we love to hear from you. We appreciate, we've appreciated all of the comments and feedback you've provided so far. But this is as much a conversation as anything else. So please do not hesitate to tell us what you want to hear about.
If you don't want to hear us talk or mention,
the Big Ten, same.
The Big Ten, same. I don't either.
With you.
Or if you don't want to hear random Hamilton quotes,
I didn't
which
have
may
one in
be,
here.
I know.
I didn't have one in here.
I had to throw it in at the end. Mm-hmm. Give us be like, hey, will you guys talk about this? We gladly talk about whatever you want us to talk about, unless it's the structure of the F word. Then we probably won't talk about it.
No, but we can just chat about Hamilton sometime.
Yeah.
I'm fine with that. Before I let you all go, I just need to know, you don't have an iPhone, right?
No.
Oh, that's right, because I get the green when I share it with you. So interesting thing, I'll report back next week on my thoughts on it, but they just have an iOS update, and you can now put these widgets, and you can organize the pages a little bit differently than it was before. I understand if you have an Android or any other kind of phone, you're like, great, we've had that forever.
Right.
Well, I don't care. I have an iPhone. So I started, but if you just want to waste some time, go Google the people who have been making aesthetically pleasing home pages for this. because they're not usable. Because if you make the like pretty little like icons, it takes you to the shortcut app so that you can then get to the app that you want.
Oh, that's annoying.
It's so annoying.
No,
mine
thanks.
is not set that way. I just have the original apps. I just kind of put a couple of cool like, hey, the weather is right there. But I'll report back on if I go crazy or not, because it eliminated about half of my apps on the first page. I don't know if that's going to work.
Yeah.
We'll see. Yeah. I'm very much a creature
check
of
back
habit.
in. Me
so
too.
if I'm like losing my mind by next week, you'll know it's because of my phone.
Right.
But it took me an embarrassing amount of time to like get it to be laid out that way. So like now I feel like I can't change it.
Yeah, I know how that goes.
Again, email us, mindyourownpodcast @hailvarsity.com. Tweet at us. Otherwise, we'll here
talk
every
to you
Wednesday.
next week.
Welcome to fall.